Welcome to 21st Sports Recap and Reaction for the Indianapolis Colts at the Jacksonville Jaguars in their Week 14 matchup played December 13th, 2015. We're going to go over the scores and the stats and give our breakdown and analysis for this AFC South Division rivalry matchup as the Colts entered this game with a 16-game winning streak in their division. So they hadn't lost a game against a division opponent since 2012, and that was against the Texans. And here they were facing the Jaguars, and the Colts were tied for first entering this game with the Texans. And the Jacksonville Jaguars, if they lost, they'd be 2 games behind the Colts. But if they could win this game, they would just be 1 game behind with 3 games left to play. So Jacksonville would put the first points on the scoreboard with a 46-yard field goal by Jason Myers with about 11 minutes still left in the first. And then the Colts midway through the first would kick a 25-yard field goal as the future Hall of Famer Adam Vinatieri tied this game up at 3 apiece. So that would be the only score in the first quarter. Then in the second quarter, the Colts would take the lead with a 21-yard field goal by Vinatieri to make it 6-3. Then with less than 2 minutes left before halftime, Robert Mathis scored on a fumble return where he basically didn't really return it. He just jumped on the ball after it sailed over Blake Bortles' head on kind of a botched snap. But with the touchdown and the extra point by Vinatieri, it was 13-3 Colts over the Jaguars. But less than a minute later, the Jaguars returned the favor as Andre Branch would strip Hasselbeck, and he returned the fumble 49 yards for the defensive touchdown for the Jags. Jason Myers missed the extra point, and so it was 13-9 as the Colts were still up by 4 heading into halftime. So then in the third quarter, things changed as the Jaguars would take the lead just a minute and a half into the second half as Blake Bortles hit Allen Hurns, who went 80 yards for the score. Jason Myers added the extra point, and now the Jags were in the lead 16-13. And then just less than 2 minutes later, Rashad Green, the rookie from FSU, the former Seminole, returned a punt 73 yards for the touchdown. Myers added the extra point, and now it was 23-13 as the Jags extended their lead to 10. The Colts would score for the only time in the second half as Vinatieri added a 32-yard field goal midway through the third quarter to make it 23-16 as the Colts were still in this one, down by just 7 at this point. But then the Jags scored 28 unanswered, starting with a 4-yard touchdown by Allen Robinson as he connected with a pass from Blake Bortles with about 5 minutes left in the third to make it 30-16 after the extra point by Myers. And then in the fourth quarter, Blake Bortles hit the tight end Julius Thomas for a 3-yard touchdown. With about 13 minutes still left in the game, Myers added the extra point, and now it was 37-16. Then with about 6 minutes left, Denard Robinson, the former Wolverine, scored on a 1-yard run, and Myers added the extra point, and now it was 44-16 Jags over the Colts. And then with 2 minutes still left to play, Blake Bortles took it in for a 1-yard touchdown run. Myers added the extra point, and it was 51-16 as the Jaguars winning this one big time over the Colts, making a huge statement in the division. And if somehow the Jacksonville Jaguars pull off this division and take it, this game will be a big reason why. And of course, the Jaguars now 5-8 on the season. The Colts are 6-7. The Jags just 1 game behind the Colts for first place in the AFC South. Of course, the Texans will be playing the Patriots on Sunday Night Football. The Jacksonville's 4-3 at home this season. They're above 500, and the Colts now below 500 on the road at 3-4. But Jacksonville getting a huge win. Blake Bortles coming up big time in this game, and really it was the defense of Jacksonville. They actually knocked Hasselbeck out the game in the fourth quarter as we ended up seeing Charlie Whitehurst come in to relieve him. But in this game, Blake Bortles, 16 of 30, 250 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. He also had a rushing touchdown and 17 yards off of 4 carries to give him 4 total touchdowns in the game. Denard Robinson was the leading rusher in this game with 14 carries for 75 yards and a touchdown. TJ Yeldon had 11 carries for 62 yards. Allen Hurns had 3 receptions for 105 yards and a touchdown. Julius Thomas, 5 receptions for 54 yards and a touchdown. Harbor had 2 receptions for 21 yards. And Allen Robinson had 1 catch for just 4 yards and a touchdown. That was a touchdown. And so then Matt Hasselbeck was 18 for 35, 252 passing yards. Then Whitehurst 2 for 8, just 8 passing yards and an interception. Frank Gore had 16 carries for 60 yards. And he also had 1 reception where he lost a yard. T.Y. Hilton had 4 catches for 132 yards. And Dante Moncrief had 3 receptions for 52 yards. We look at the kickers in this game. Jason Myers, 1 for 1 on the field goals, 6 for 7 on the extra points, and Adam Vinatieri was 3 for 3 on the field goals, 1 for 1 on the extra points. And we look at the defense. Andre Branch had 2 sacks and a forced fumble. Of course, he had that defensive touchdown on that fumble return. And Jonathan Cyprian had an interception. Chris Clemens also had a sack as well. And for the Colts, DeQuell Jackson had a sack. Terrence Cole had a sack and a forced fumble. Mike Adams had a sack and a forced fumble as well. Look at the team stats. 24 first downs for the Jags. 17 first downs for the Colts. And on third down, the Colts were 4 for 16, 25%. Jacksonville just 2 for 9, 22% conversion rate on third down. And on fourth down, Jacksonville went for it once. They did convert that fourth down. And the Colts went for it twice. They converted 1 for 50% on fourth down. Total net yards, 380 for the Jacksonville Jaguars, 322 for the Colts. And on the ground, the Jags netted 154, the Colts 95. And through the air, the Colts netted 227 as they allowed 3 sacks for a loss of 33 yards. And the Jags netted 226 as Bortles was sacked 3 times, losing 24 yards. Penalties in this game cost the Colts 8 penalties for 85 yards, 5 penalties against Jacksonville for 40 yards. The Colts had 1 fumble, which they lost. The Jaguars fumbled it 3 times. They lost 2, recovered 1. And then in the red zone in this game, Jacksonville 4 for 4, 100%. And the Colts were 0 for 3, 0% in the red zone. And when your defense cannot stop a team in the red zone and your offense can't get it into the end zone in the red zone, that's a recipe for a loss. And that's a recipe for the first loss since 2012 in their division. Even though they had the time of possession, 30 minutes, 48 seconds to 29 minutes, 12 seconds for Jacksonville. That was the only thing that was really close in this game. And I mean, it was, at halftime, it was a close game. It actually, the Colts went into halftime up by 4. But it was all Jacksonville in the second half. Of course, Jacksonville got that touchdown in the final minute of the first half. Otherwise, they were down by 10 before putting that 6 points on the board. But then in the second half, they just went off. And if you go back to that minute where they put up that 6 points, they ended up with 48 points to 3 in that final 31 minutes of the game, after being down by 10, previous. So the Colts it looked like they had it early on, but Jacksonville, they made the adjustments at halftime. And you wonder, what did Gus Bradley say at halftime in that speech? Because it sure worked, because they came out and they just destroyed Indianapolis in the second half. And they did it every which way as they scored on offense, defense, and special teams in this game. So Jacksonville with a huge performance. They've got the weapons. They've got the talent. I mean, they might just be 5-8, and yeah, that's not really a great record by any stretch of the imagination. But in 2015, that has them 1 game back of first place in the South with 3 games left to play. So they've got a chance. Anything's possible. It'll be interesting to see what happens. In the Colts, this is a year that they entered as a favorite to go to the Super Bowl. They were in the AFC Championship last year, and they made all those additions in the offseason. But with the injuries that have been building up all year, there they are with, the division looking to slip out of their hands. And of course, don't forget about the Texans. But let me know what you think in the comments section below. Definitely interested to read your thoughts and opinions. Thank you very much for listening. It is greatly appreciated. I hope you're having a good day and having a great weekend and enjoying all the sports.